Hey, Denny, Al Pierce from Auto Week. The fact that Long Beach has even been rumored to maybe being a venue in the future, do you like the idea of another street race or more road races, or do you like the balance now on the schedule?
Yeah, I personally like the balance now. I think, I don't know what it costs for the infrastructure of us building like a Chicago, right? Yeah, surely it was a lot. It almost seems like you could build a short track just about anywhere as well, like, just temporary asphalt walls, things like that, like we have at the Clash. So would like to see us, stick to what we are versus, going to, too many road courses.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. With this race going back to night, how different or what are the differences between night racing here and day racing? Does the track change more, or is there any big difference?
There hasn't been, from what I understand, and as long as I've been doing it, it's still Richmond. It still wears out tires quite a bit. Maybe the tire wear is slightly less, but I would say that if anything, this new tire has got more tire wear than what that our previous Richmond tires will have, or what used to have. So I do think it will be, it's still going to be a best handling car, driver, things like that will matter.
John Newby, NBC Sports. So Tyler and Bubba, they've always kind of had, fun putting their personalities on display, but it seems like it's kind of going to a different level under the 2311 banner. Am I correct in that assessment? And if so, is that, I guess, kind of like an intentional fostering of those personalities?
It's not intentional, no. I would say that, we pretty much let those guys kind of be themselves, and the sponsors are comfortable with them. That's why they signed up with them. So, no, nothing intentional. It's just kind of who they are, I think.
And then I guess, does it help from the sense of continuing to grow the sport and following along the lines of you putting, the entire organization on the Netflix series?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, had those discussions early, and when Netflix asked, how much access would be able to be given to 2311, certainly, I considered it very much the same as what I gave them, and in the sense of that, to bring all the personnel around and say, hey, here's what I expect you guys to do, and as far as giving access, and they did that. So certainly it was good for the kind of the narrative of the show.
All right, let's go to Lee and then to Chris.
You've started on the pole at Martinsville 4 different times. How important is it, since it's a short track, since the pit box is all involved, to win the pole for that race?
For Martinsville?
Yes.
Yeah, it's big at Martinsville for sure. It's not as big as Phoenix, but it's it's close in that vicinity. I don't know how many pole winners have started, have finished in first. I don't know the numbers exactly, but certainly it's an advantage, especially if you have a good pit crew that is just very solid, not going to make mistakes. You're most likely going to gain a spot or two each time you go in the pit area. So it's certainly an advantage.
Chris Powell, Couch Coach Live. Denny, obviously you have 4 wins here at the Raceway. Now, obviously this is your quote-unquote home track. What's your thoughts of coming this week and potentially getting your 5th win this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this race. All week I've been really excited to get here and kind of see where we stack up, and certainly with the history we've had over the last 3 to 4 races here at Richmond, being in contention, I feel pretty strongly about it. So I would say that this is one that certainly historically we've always been good at, or I've always been good at. JGR's been really good at. And then with the momentum that it seems like our cars have and our manufacturer, hopefully we can just tack on that extra speed that we've shown here lately.
Go to Matt Weaver.
Matt Weaver, Sports 9. With the sports betting floodgates kind of opening here this year, have you put any thoughts towards like the potential positives with the fact that it has more people paying attention, they're invested in it, but also the potential pitfalls like we've kind of been reminded of with like Shohei Ohtani this week?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly positives for the sport on it. It certainly, if you look at most of the sports fans that watch any given game, Usually it's because they have some sort of action on it. It's you only have one home team or favorite team that you root for. Well, there's dozens of other games going on, and this is talking about other leagues. So when you're sitting at home and you're checking to see what game is on, most likely it's not your favorite team. So how are you going to have an invested interest in those other teams that you're watching? It's through sports betting. So I think that it certainly has contributed to the rise of other sports, and could do the same thing for NASCAR as well.
And then as far as the potential second season of the Netflix show, you gave so much of your home and team and yourself to that production. So I'm curious, when it comes short of maybe like a championship run, what would you like to see that show focus on, regardless of whether you're a featured part of it or not?
I think just really kind of getting into the technical aspect of it, of what you saw, is kind of the drivers, their personalities and whatnot. What you didn't see is like what makes those cars go around in circles, and what makes this driver better than the other, or what makes this car better than the other. I think those are important stories to tell, because at a basic level, I think they hit all the marks really well. But it's maybe getting a little bit more technical into why this team or why this driver might be better than others. I'd like to see that.
Try to get 3 more questions in here. We're going to go to Jordan, Madison, and finish with Hank.
Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic. As NASCAR looks to put the schedule together for next year, and they're having these conversations, have you given any input on where you'd like to see NASCAR go?
They don't ask us any of that stuff. They just come out with a schedule, so no.
Is there somewhere you'd really like to see next year? Or any changes you'd like to see?
Not offhand. I haven't really thought of it firsthand, but certainly, more ovals.
And winning at Martinsville is always special for you, obviously, for numerous reasons, but it's also a track where Hendrick Motorsports puts a lot of emphasis for numerous reasons as well.
Where at?
Martinsville.
Yeah.
And so is beating them at Martinsville carry any extra, meaning or anything to you?
It doesn't. It obviously means a lot to them for, really important reasons. But, if you're able to beat them, which doesn't happen too often at that track, certainly, you've got kind of everything going, right? You got to have that pit crew because you got to qualify well. All those things really matter. And so, the short track at Martinsville is just a beast in its own. You really can't correlate it to any other short track. We don't, heavily brake like that at any other short track that I can think of. Tight corners. It's just very different than even the flowy like Richmond type short tracks. And so, they've just been good there for forever, right? I mean, even before I was in the Cup Series, they were good. Jeff Gordon and those guys were dominating it. And then Jimmy Johnson came along and he took over and started dominating it. So it's just a track that they got figured out. And maybe it was a track that they tested at way, way back in the day because you used to be able to test just anytime you wanted to. And maybe it was a track that they spent a lot of emphasis on. But certainly, emotions are probably always high for those guys going into a Martinsville weekend. And that just adds a little pressure to the drivers to know they got to step up.
Madison Moore, ABC 8 News, over here. Right here, back here, sorry.
Yep.
Denny, you're racing in your hometown this weekend. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I love it. This is a track always where we're starting to get into the swing of the tracks where, we're going to be contenders every week. So this kind of kicks off that part of the schedule. So I think we all kind of know where we're at now, right? We're 6 races in. We know what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, and now we just have to capitalize when we come to tracks like this that we're always contenders. It's going to be an execution game. It's not going to be a speed game. We'll have that. It's making sure we execute. And with the pit crew I've got this year, they've been on it. I feel like our speed is as good as it's ever been. We run in the top 5 more than we ever have, even though we might not finish there quite yet. I feel pretty good about it. So I'm anxiously awaiting the next hour.
We'll finish in the middle here with Hank.
Denny,
How, if at all, does having a win?
His voice carries well.
Yeah. How, if at all, does having a win already change your approach week to week?
It doesn't really change my approach. I mean, I think if I were kind of a notorious bubble guy who is always kind of on the bubble, then it would certainly give you some relief. But certainly, a team like this should never even be discussed on the bubble any year. So I don't treat it any different other than we have certain bonus point goals throughout the season. And so, for us, we would like to be 14 points in the next 3 races, have 14. We've got 6 now, so we need to get on it.